with that here. So raise your hand, say hi, everybody. Okay. And you can tell you a little bit about yourself a little bit later. And from Teach for All, we've got Andy and Jonas. So right here, I'll let you guess which one is which. So sorry, sorry, I'm really sorry, guys. So we're just gonna get started. We're gonna have the Teach for All guys tell us a little bit about their project, so that help set the context. Jonas will give us a little demo as they wrap up, and then we'll switch over to SACS and do the same thing over there, and then we'll start asking a few questions and having a conversation. I'd like to remind you in advance to fill out the surveys that you have there right next to you. So do fill those out, submit them to the assistant or whatever he is. I'm sure he's around. Because your feedback is very important and helps us determine what it is that we're going to be discussing in future Alfresco Summit sessions. So, all right, let's go get started. So, Andy?
I guess I'll take it away.
Take it away.
So Teach for All is a global organization that, it's actually a network organization. So we have 35 partner organizations spread around the world. The one that most people are probably the most familiar with, especially in this context, is Teach for America here in the United States. So these are organizations that are focused on expanding education opportunity in their countries. Expanding education opportunity in their respective countries. So their focus is on finding the best young professionals and recent college graduates to become teachers and focusing on their development as educators, lifelong, even beyond their initial teaching stints. So that model is replicated in 34 other countries, and Teach for All serves as an organization that works with these organizations both on how to build up your organization, how to pitch to donors, how to train teachers, how to nurture them. When they're done with their teaching experiences, how do you build an alumni community and an alumni network, and how do you stay within education and so on. And we also work with what we call early stage folks, which are social entrepreneurs that are interested in forming a Teach for organization in their respective countries. So we also help them with, in essence, getting started up, how to pitch to donors, how to create a initial business plan, and how to just really think about what their mission should be and what they're looking to solve. Along those lines, we kind of came upon Alfresco, and really the problem that we're trying to solve is Teach for All itself, despite the fact that we're spread across these 35 countries, is a very small organization, and we're trying to source documents across everybody, case studies, templates, sample work products. And over the years, it's just become like, I'm sure most of you will find it, like people will start emailing everyone else like, hey, do you have this document? Oh, no, I think it's over here. No, it's over there. Oh, I think I put it in my Dropbox account. Oh, wait, no, that's an old version. Do you have it in your Box account? No, let me go check my Outlook. Oh, here it is. And then they eventually find it like 3 days later and send it out. And if you take that and replicate it over and over and over again, we very quickly realized we had a very big problem where just so much time was being wasted of people emailing and calling and Skyping back and forth from country to country looking for different things, and needing some simple, easy way to find documents that Teach for All has curated over the years, and so that our partner staff can go and locate and find it. So that was really that main problem that we were looking to solve. So what we did was, we wanted Alfresco, but we really wanted we had really two key criteria. One is we wanted a knowledge management system that would be accessible, but from all these different countries, with all these different staff members. And as the network grew as new countries may join us, as each organization grows, we wanted a system that wasn't going to charge us a monthly per user licensing fee. We wanted something that actually scales as you grow from 100 users to 500 users to 1,000 users to 5,000 users, and not have to worry about, oh my goodness, our budget is ballooning because we're because of our own success. And we wanted something to be stable in that sense. And the other thing we really wanted was something that was very user focused, like this whole concept of design first and design centric, and something that didn't necessarily look like a document management system. We wanted it to work like one, but we wanted it where users came in and it looked really pretty and really simple to use. And it helped guide users sort of almost organically to what they needed to find. Like SharePoint always looks like SharePoint. Box looks like Box. There's only so much you can do with it to pretty it up. And we really wanted something that could be prettied up. So I'm just kind of skimming through all this. So actually, without further ado, I'll actually let Jonas just show you what I'm talking about, and I don't know if you want to talk through kind of.
Can you guys hear me okay? Lovely. All right, I think I have to escape from here to get to, there we go. Oops, sorry. Got a fun admin menu there. But so yeah, so to Andy's point, my name's Jonas. I'm the director of web operations. So I'm, more a web developer trying to make it in an ECM world. So our focus is really having this not be a document management site, because our users are not necessarily staff of an organization that we can train, or we can say, like, this is what you have to do because you work here. We really have to win our users over, and they need to come here, and we need to have them in a second and realize that, wow, this is a really helpful tool for me, and with minimal barriers of entry. The other thing that was really important to us was we kind of had two types of users we had to think about. We have new staff, new people to the network who are coming in. There may be, a brand new organization, and Senya Airboy just joined. They're the new head of recruitment, and they got to get started, and they don't even know where to begin, right? They're like, I have to recruit 20 people, to teach this year. But we also have people from like Teach for America or Teach First in the UK that have been around for 15 years. They're old hats. They know what they're doing. When they come, they have one specific thing they're looking for. They know exactly what they want, and they want to find it quickly. So we really needed an interface that would allow for both of these users to find what they needed. And so this is the homepage where you log in. We used a central authentication system to manage like an LDAP server that would allow signing in through Drupal as well as Alfresco, just with one sign-on, so we didn't have to worry about multiple logins and things like that. So if you're maybe someone who knows what you're looking for and you come, the first thing you're going to see is this big search engine, which is really for that user that knows what they're looking for. So let's just put in something really generic. I'm sure they would search for something more specific, but basically you just get, and this is very much like, this is an Apache Solr search engine. It's really just been given some custom CSS, but it's kind of the same idea, right? You've got all of your filters over here. You've got some nice little ways to display the PDF or get some descriptions. Some of that metadata gets pulled in, but it's all kind of the standard fields of metadata that you have with your Alfresco documents. And so when you pick what you want to do, you get this nice little page, again, where we've pulled in, this is a lot of the more custom metadata that we put in, because again, as opposed to just a really simple, folder structure, we wanted to give a lot of contextual information for these documents so people understand, okay, this is maybe something that was, it says it's a global resource, so it's something that anyone can use, whereas some of them might have been used, in China or in Mexico, and it's important for you to understand that it was used in their context, and you should keep that in mind before thinking about how it works in your own. Another cool thing that we were able to do by using Drupal and kind of adding this web interface is something we called group documents. And so what this does is it kind of looks like a foldering, but it's not really a folder system. It's just a way of associating documents with one another. And so what you can see is that, oh, this document is grouped in this folder for hiring resources, and you see all these other resources that are related. And so this was a really big use for HR support. So you're hiring a new head of recruitment. You might search and you find a JD, but then you'll see it's linked with the exercises, the interview guides, all those other resources that you need, and you don't have to keep searching and keep finding. You'll suddenly see that they're all right there. So this is kind of thinking more of our more advanced user that knows what they're looking for. But for these newer users that are not really sure where to start and they just need a bit of early guidance, again, that's why we really needed something like a web interface to help them out. So you can just go to your job area. So let's say you're in recruitment. And we've kind of built out these pages that really guide you through the process. So the first thing you're going to do is set goals, recruiting, selection. So you can go in here and say, okay, yeah, I got to set my goals. How many people am I recruiting this year? and you get all of this extra contextual information to really help you through this process, you're not just throwing a bunch of documents and then trying to figure it out on your own. You're giving the introduction, you're getting all these insights, and then you're getting relevant documents. So it really just helps, kind of hold the person's hand and take them through a process, and so they're not totally overwhelmed with like, here's a zip file of 30 documents, good luck, recruit some people. So that's really how we've targeted it to do different audiences to really figure things out and get a lot of the information they need without having to email us and we email other people, and 20 emails later you get what you're looking for. Yeah, so I think that's kind of the demo. I'm happy to take more questions about it, but that's a general overview.
All right, good morning, everyone. I'm Aaron Heath, Senior Manager of Web Content Management System Development for SAS Fifth Avenue. We've been using Alfresco to manage web content on our e-commerce site since 2011. One reason we chose Alfresco was we thought it was easy. Well, the main goal, I guess, was we had been using the e-commerce platform, which was Blue Martini, to manage all content, all products, all content, everything really. So Blue Martini is okay for e-commerce, like managing the products and the shopping cart and the checkout and all of those type of e-commerce system functionality. But for managing marketing content, it just didn't really cut it. It was difficult for the business teams to update and edit the content. It took a long time. If we needed to update an image in production, it would take hours. So we knew we needed a better solution that gave the control and the ownership into the hands of the business. So we thought it was a great idea to build a content as a service system. We were going to keep the e-commerce platform and the website working the way it was, but just have a service available that could be called to provide the content. So Alfresco seemed to fit the use case of, you could set up an Alfresco instance, and with web scripts you could have services that could be called from not just one website, but additional, multiple websites and mobile apps and mobile sites. All of those applications could call the same service and get the content. So for Saks.com, we update around 200 to 250 pieces of content per week. We have around 100 users. Most of these are merchandise. They're in the merchandise operations teams. Like I said, we have content as a service. But one thing that was difficult, I guess, was that with Alfresco, you don't really get any common web content management system tools. The users they have such high expectations. They expect to be able to edit the content directly on the website. They expect to be able to see, in context editing, or see what it's going to look like, not just go into share and fill out some form and then go to the website and see what it's going to look like. So that was one of the challenges. So we ended up building a custom in-context editor for the website that actually is a JavaScript application that will call the web scripts that we have, present the content on our pre-production website, and allow the users to edit the content directly on the website, and then it will post the information back to Alfresco using web scripts, and then serve those updates through the web scripts. This has been working quite well, but the JavaScript application that we use for in-context editing is quite labor-intensive. We're building it in-house, so there's chances there's errors, there's bugs. We roll it out to the users, and they've actually they're kind of our QA department. We do have QA, but they don't catch everything. So there's some limitations there. We're really we're kind of blazing our own path there, which makes it difficult. One of the big things that happened organizationally the past year was Saks Fifth Avenue was acquired by Hudson Bay Company. Hudson Bay Company is the oldest company in North America. They own a department store chain called The Bay in Canada. They're in pretty much every city in Canada. They also own Lord & Taylor in the United States. And so they liked our model. Saks is, out of all of those companies, Saks was the only one that had their own in-house web team. For Lord & Taylor and the Bay, that was all outsourced. So this year we've been tasked with managing all 4 e-commerce sites. They've turned us from Saks Direct, that was the name of our department, to Hudson Bay Digital. So now we're managing all 4 e-commerce websites, which have distinct brands, distinct looks, but it's the same web designers, the same designers that are creating all the content. I'm responsible for all web content management now for all of those sites. So some of the things we've been doing are a little bit, like I said, it's labor intensive and challenging. We don't see that it scales, across 4 sites. So now we are looking at alternatives. Actually, Crafter looks quite good and serves the case there where it has in-context editing, allows us to continue to use Alfresco. So we are looking into Crafter, but we're also looking into Adobe Web Experience Manager. We would like to continue to use Alfresco for managing say document management and business process management that's around the content updates, but we may be going through some changes this year. Another kind of thought, well, so now we have this plan we're going to build, we're calling it the platform, but the first phase of the platform will be to have one common web content management system across all 4 of those sites. We don't expect them to use the same e-commerce platform on the back end because we don't want to go spend 6 months to a year porting. Well, right now, Lord & Taylor, for instance, it's using WebSphere. And Saks.com uses Blue Martini. So we don't expect to port Saks.com over to WebSphere, spend 6 months porting all that over. The business really doesn't see a difference. They don't really get anything out of that during those 6 months. So our plan is to have one common web content management system managing all 4 sites, and then have a service layer there that could call the different e-commerce platforms. So now actually our thinking has switched from content as a service to e-commerce as a service. So content as a service doesn't make as much sense to me anymore. We now want the web content management system to be handling the requests, building that presentation, and then calling the back end, the e-commerce, really, the add to bag, the checkout, the checking inventory. So we have a lot of work to go because we have to make sure all of those services are API enabled. Excuse me. No, I think I'm good. I'm just going to do a demo here in a second, but yeah, we can switch out. So there's also, retail is very fierce. Competition. So some of the things that the business would like to do is, more personalization. We like to, know who you are and present relevant content. We'd also like to use the web content management system for handling the displays in the stores. And we'd like to have tighter integration with products. So some of those things are a challenge when you have this service out there that maybe doesn't know about the rest of the systems. So just give you a quick view here. This is a development instance of our Saks.com. We actually use Alfresco to manage all non-product content on this site. So all marketing images, these are the things that update on a weekly basis. So our homepage here, it updates on a weekly basis. And these would be parts of the 250 some odd pieces of content that we update weekly. Another thing that happened actually when we switched over to Alfresco, so prior it was just all in Blue Martini, it really relied on a lot of development resources to update the content. They would either have to go in the code and change the images, or something with Blue Martini is a little too technical for the merchandise operations teams to be updating the content. So by switching over to Alfresco, we actually allowed business teams to edit the content themselves and free up development resources to work on bigger projects, new features, new functionality, that kind of thing. So actually, over the past few years, our merchandise operations team has scaled quite large. Just to now, they run, they create all, or they manage all their own content. They can publish when certain users. We have 2 groups in Alfresco: a content author or a content manager and a content editor group. The content manager has the ability to publish content anytime. So we can do real-time updates within minutes now instead of hours. But we also publish in bulk weekly. So we publish a new version of our website weekly. And those like 250 or so some odd pieces of content that get published. So all of that is done through Alfresco. We use both the share interface and our custom authoring tool. So I can show you a couple things of how we update the homepage here. So the first thing I'm going to do is show you how we can, some of the things we can do. So I have this, the homepage is actually broken into modules. Actually, we now have these modules on every one of our page types. So we have page types, our home page, section pages, the categories here. So these would go to section pages. We have product array pages. Those are the pages that have multiple products. We can put banners on those through Alfresco. We have thousands of those, thousands of product array pages. We started with this module concept on the home page where we have different modules. This here is a hero module. Down here we have an expandable module, which I'll be able to demonstrate in a little more detail. Product recommends module. This content all comes from a third party. We have it's rich relevance. That's what they do. They build these kind of personalization or tracking systems. So they're much more experienced at that than we are. So they actually handle this content. We send them a feed of our products, and then they track users as they browse and shop our site. And then they can display products that they think you might be interested in. So we actually have these modules in Alfresco, but each module type actually maps to a JSP. So on the front end, we can get the modules back from Alfresco. It basically would call a web script from this page. It's this JSP's rendering. It calls it web scripts and gets the content. And then it loops through those content types, or those module types, and calls the proper JSP. So this rex.jsp is just, it knows how to call this third party and pass in the variables. Just some more, this is probably just another hero module. We're right now exploring, this is a development environment that I have here, exploring some new functionality like having full screen modules and some new kind of layout. So some of these look a little different. This is a social circle here, which is another third party module that pulls in content from all the social channels that SAS participates in. So it's another, we just have the module in Alfresco to know when it's on the page and where on the page it is. So the merchandise teams can say when this is on the page and where on the page, which position it is. And all that positioning can be controlled through our editing tool. So that's all that's on this page right now. First thing I'm going to do here is we have this image up here. It's just a clear image. I'm going to show you a trick that we've been doing lately with videos. So we have a lot of, SAS.com especially, so each of our brands has specific kind of use case or needs. They do a lot of, I guess, curated content, they like to say, but for SAS.com, they spend a lot more time. Our our average order value is quite high, and our products are expensive, so we put a little more effort into the content for SAS.com. A Lord & Taylor might not be the same, and our offfifth.com is not quite the same. We do use Alfresco for offfifth.com as well, but just for some of the content. Couple things. I'm going to jump in here. Excuse me for jumping around so much, but so this is the share. We're on version 4.2. We've been using Alfresco since 2011, like I said. So we started on version 3.3. We've gone through 2 upgrades since then. We've gone to 3.4 and then 4.2. We upgraded to 4.2 in May. Rivet Logic actually helped us with the upgrade, and it was a great experience. So I logged in here as one of the content editors. We have 2 sites that we use in Share for managing the content. We have media and projects. Projects is kind of poorly named, but it just kind of stuck from some earlier things we were doing. But projects is really the structure of SAS.com. So we have a content type. All of our content is based on a custom content model that we have. So we have a custom content type for all of the pages, all the page types, and then we have custom content types for all the content that can be added to those pages. So I'm going to jump into the media site and just need to set up that transparent image a little bit. We're going to position a video loop over it. We're actually going to get a full image size video loop, like it's the video that loops through a few seconds, and we're going to position that clear image over it. So I need to grab that. This is just the structure. We call them page components. So just the media content or binary content that can be added to the pages. We either have, and we use a lot of rules in Share. So we have rules that will run that when content gets uploaded into these folders, it specializes the type. That's our most common rule. It will say, if something gets added or created in this folder, we want it to become this type. And then that way we get the properties that we want or that we need added to that. So we either have a folder for each of the content types, or we have a folder for the page type, and then underneath that would be the content that could be added to that page type. So MHP stands for main homepage. It's just the homepage for SAS.com. And then we have modules and images. So really these are modules here, like this is the hero module, but a module needs to have associations or relationships to images, so we know, it's basically a module is a container that has relationships to images that can be used within that container. So I'm going to come into my images here. Just the way the business works, we work on a weekly cycle normally, so they're very date focused. So they break down the structure on how or when it's going to be used. They usually put the date in the name as well. So I have here this transparent image, and I can edit the properties of it. We have start and end dates. This is based on the effectivity aspect that comes from the Alfresco content model. These dates are actually used for us to determine when the content's going to be live on the site. It's not connected to the publishing, but it's connected to when this is live on the site. And then we have caching all the way across from on the Alfresco side, and we have Nginx for like reverse proxy cache between the website and Alfresco, and then Akamai as a CDN. All of these caching layers use these dates and set expires headers so the content will update when needed. We have sales sometimes maybe start right at midnight. We need the content to change right at midnight. So we have all the expires headers all the way across being set with these dates, and everything is honoring these expires headers, or these dates. I'm just going to add a video loop here so I can associate a video to this image. And it just starts right in the folder where the videos are. That's all I really have to do. We have some other fields here, but these get set by our editing tool. So once I've added that video to the image, it's already been associated. The other associations have already been set up just to speed some of this along. But I just added a video to, I'm actually going to change this, make sure I'm really logged in. Just loaded in another tab here. The video is now been associated to the image. Actually, I can show you there. It just went by, but it's kind of the wrong display. So I need to position that video now. This is our editing tool. Sorry, I jumped kind of fast. We call it Slice. It stands for SACS Loves In-Context Editing. I did a Tech Talk Live several months ago, and Richard and Jeff had the idea to call it SLACS instead, which would stand for SACS Loves Alfresco Content Services. But we stuck with the name Slice, at least for now. So I can log in here. I typed Shift S to bring it up in our pre-production website. And then it calls, every action now would call a web script. So I just logged in, it called that login web script, and it gave me a ticket. So now I have a ticket that I can append to the posts. So now as I make changes, those would get posted back through web scripts with that ticket. So it knows who's editing it, if they have the permissions, and keeps that audit trail. We get this toolbar up here that's basically the structure of the site. So it's called this is a JavaScript application written in Backbone. It calls Alfresco and gets that structure. So it shows me here I have all these modules associated to that page. I have this hero module, and I'm going to grab this image. So it loads this image here. There's a few things I can do. I can set some links, and I can set a video. So I have this video. I can drag and drop it to where I want, and I can set some properties on it. Normally. Usually I can. Let me try this again. Sorry.
I want to get to the question and answers.
Okay, sorry. We can get to the questions if you want. I can show you the finished product, I guess, but.
By the way, this web app supports the Konami code sequence. You know what that is? Up, up, down, down, left, right, BA. It actually supports that. I'm not kidding. I was joking about it when I saw him do some weird keyword combination. It's like, is that up, up, down, down?
If we have time, I can show it.
So pretty slick.
Okay, this worked this time. Okay, so.
That's what I like.
Yeah. So you can enter a URL if you want the video to be linkable, and we can set its width. So I'm going to set it to 100% here and save it. It's a little bug in my dev environment. It really doesn't display that way, but I'm just going to go ahead and skip ahead. I'm going to come back to this video tab. And I can see here there's a checkbox to show the image over the video or the video over the image. I'm going to say put the image over the video, and I'm going to save it. And now we have the video over the image.
Yay!
And I could image map this, and we also support personalization of this. I can fake it by
URL hacking for the win.
yeah, so I just said I'm a min shopper, so it showed me the min's image first. So we can get to the questions, but I can also show the keyboard thing.
No, that's okay. But it is there. All right. So let's start with the Q&A. And actually, before I do that, there are two. Well, there are some similarities and some. Oh, look at that.
That's what it does when you talk.
Ooh, particles. Nice. So anyway,
Okay.
Now WebGL you obviously love as well.
Yes.
So might as well leave that up there.
Okay.
It makes for a nice little distraction. Ooh, look at it. Let's all just kind of fall asleep. You like this presentation. You will give us good feedback. So I noticed some similarities and some differences between the two projects. Let's actually talk about some of the similarities from an architecture perspective. So Andy, could you please describe, kind of what the setup is in terms of architecture? You're using Drupal on the front end, Alfresco's on the back end, and obviously there's some magic glue that hooks it together. So describe that for me.
It's magic glue.
It's magic glue.
We work with a company called Innovation Technologies, and they have a service offering, which is now currently called OS Caddy, but if you had paid attention closely, it actually still says their old branding with Canopy on our...
The product formerly known as Canopy.
Yeah. But yeah, so that is in essence the piece that we use that sort of glues the two together in a way and makes it run very seamlessly between the two.
And OS Caddy / Canopy uses web scripts and REST calls to retrieve content from the Alfresco repository, and that is actually very similar to the approach that you guys are using as well. So if you could describe that very briefly.
What we use for presentation, or what we use for?
Yeah, for well, we know you use Blue Martini for presentation and so forth, but architecturally, you've got a couple more layers in between, right?
So architecturally, we have, in production, we have a 3-node cluster. And we rely on the web scripts, really, like I said. So each JSP, we have basically a custom tag library, a JSP custom tag library that would we have tags that will call these web scripts. The response is in JSON, but we actually have Nginx web server basically between Blue Martini and Alfresco. And that's configured to cache these responses of the web scripts. We also have memory cache, so Java basically like a concurrent hash map that will, so the process goes, we call the web script, it will get cached in Nginx. We take that web script and we generate a Java object we turn that JSON back into a Java object. And then we'll cache that Java object in memory on each of the application servers. We have 6 application servers running the website. So that just reduces load on Alfresco.
And you do that, because of one of the key differences between the two projects, if you will, and it relates to scale and performance, right? You guys are running, a big e-commerce site, and you're also looking to, manage the 3 other properties that you've got. You guys it's a much smaller project by comparison, right? And it's a much smaller user base. Are there any performance issues or anything along those lines that you ran into in the course of the project implementation?
No, so far we haven't hit any performance issues, which is, knock on wood, been fantastic. I don't want to jinx it, but it has really been very nice, actually.
All right, good. So I also noticed that there's a, at the end of the day, really the Teach for All project, or web app or the portal, is essentially very document-centric at the end of the day. Yes, it has a pretty web front end to make discovery and browsing a lot easier, whereas you're dealing primarily with media assets, right?
Right.
So do you guys need to deal with anything related to localization or anything along those lines at this time? Go ahead, Aaron.
Yep. We haven't done too much localization yet, but we definitely have to now. And we need to keep current with all the competition, or keep up with the competition, but also Hudson Bay, as I mentioned, is a Canadian company. So one of the first things I have scheduled for us is a Canada-specific Sax.com. So actually that's going to be our first major project on our new platform. We have to rebuild Sax.com, at least in my opinion, is because Sax.com is around 13 years old. And it wasn't really built for internationalization. We have text in code, text in properties files, text all over the place, text in images. So we definitely need to, as part of the new platform, be able to support localization. But we need Sax.com at first will be both the Canada one will be in English and French. That's a law in Canada. You have to be English and French. But we have a plan to go, more international, where we want to be able to even show different products to different markets. So it's definitely important.
All right, how about you guys?
So right now, localization sort of on our roadmap, but what we've done currently, just to make sure we got it launched for this year, is we spent a lot of time. So the site's only in English, though the documents that are on the site are, depending on some of the documents, are in multiple different languages based on where they were sourced from. But the English that we used, and just for the record, like within our network, English tends to be the business language that unites everyone, even in countries that English isn't the first language. We spent a lot of time with focus groups with non-English or English as a second language users to get a sense of what they feel about the terminologies that we're using. Like, so all the headings, each one of them, we spent a lot of time making sure they understood what that meant. Like marketing and media, we had all different ideas. Do we call it marketing? Do we call it media? Do we call it public affairs? And getting a sense of like people that don't have English as a first language are like, I don't know what public affairs means, or they think it's like dealing with the government or
Right.
so on, and it's not. And so it was just over time. So all the language is kind of structured in a way to make as much sense as possible, even though it is in English, to folks that that are not English speakers.
Right. So now you guys are a relatively small and nimble organization, right? Presumably, right?
Yes.
So you made some decisions in terms of just strategic, decisions related to deployment and what technologies you use and so forth, including use of software as a service and cloud computing. Could you just talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Teach for All is interesting too as an organization. We're, as Lewis said, we're fairly small. We're about 120 people, which is very small considering how global we are, and we really are spread across all these countries. The other interesting part of it is we don't particularly have office space that we call our own. We basically share office space with other larger organizations, which means that I don't have, even though I'm head of IT, I don't have any of my own server space. So everything by default has to be on the cloud. No ifs, ands, or buts. So what we did was with our Alfresco, it's the Alfresco Enterprise, but we put it out on Amazon Web Services. And so we effectively run a variation of an in-premise Alfresco, but we run it on AWS. And that's allowed us to, it basically takes care of all of my server needs, and it's relatively easy for us to use as a small IT team. But then, folks can come in from almost anywhere around the world with.
And you guys also use Salesforce, if I recall, right? And other cloud services, right?
Everything we use is cloud.
Now, by comparison, you guys are deploying on-prem essentially, or to your own data center. So
Traditionally, SAC's infrastructure was all in-house in our own data centers, but we see the need and the benefits to running in the cloud, our infrastructure in the cloud. Because, for instance, right now we have to have the infrastructure up and running to support us on our busiest days, to support us on those Cyber Mondays where we're not that busy every day. So it'd be nice to have that elasticity of the cloud. We're starting to explore. We're actually, as we're scaling out and taking over these new businesses, we're actually starting to run more and more things in the cloud. We have Alfresco instances in Amazon. We've struggled a little bit with performance, and performance with our users, in-house. Not performance on the website or serving the content, but performance for our users using Share when it's in the cloud. So we need to tune that or dial it in a little bit, but we're definitely exploring those routes.
So in the interest of time, this is the formal close of the session, but I want to give you guys the opportunity to ask questions. We do have the lunch break now, so we can definitely go. No lunch break? We're not eating lunch?
You can go a couple more minutes. There's one more session.
Oh, there's one more session after this? I'm sorry. I want lunch.
Yeah, sounds good.
Right? Okay, I'm sorry. So let's go into overtime, but let's use this opportunity to ask questions. We'll start breaking down some things so that the next presenter can set up, but stay up here, use the mic until the next session comes in. So does anybody have questions? Say yes, please. No? Come on. You have a question. Yes.
I do have a question. When you guys are using web content and there are customers on there, are you guys taking the data, say, if a product is not available, that you guys are moving that off until it comes back online?
Well, like I said, we don't manage products in Alfresco, but we definitely need that integration. And we know now we were trying to build the next generation of our platform to be even more integrated with our PIM, product enrichment systems and product. We know it's important just also for user experience too. Like if you're browsing a product, you might want to see all the content that was in. Like they spend a lot of time putting these videos together, these images together. If you're looking at a pair of shoes, it'd be nice to see all the content that's used in. We also know we have a rule at SACS, we're not allowed to show products that we can't currently sell. So it's more of a manual process where if something sells out, they'll go update the content and push it out. But we definitely are trying to explore ways to handle that with API calls and things like that when the inventory is low to swap out the product, just for efficiencies and just for that customer experience as well.
Great. Yes.
Questions for the teacher role.
Yep.
So how long was your project to bring that site online?
So how long did the project take?
I would say, I mean, we spent the whole past year, I would say the actual development was probably more 6 months, maybe?
No, it's like 3 months.
3 months? No, because we split into 2. It was like,
Yeah.
Two
okay,
3-month
so-
projects.
Yeah, 2 3-month development periods. You know, as it always takes, like there was more time needed than we originally planned for the actual content migration. That's always kind of can slow you down. But the physical development, yeah, was probably under 6 months altogether.
Run into any challenge with the front-end design, and what the design versus
Okay, and for everybody's benefit, were there any challenges in terms of UX design and so forth?
No, I mean, I wouldn't say there are any major challenges. I mean, for most of what we came up with was based on either, branding that we already had to comply with, and then just we did a lot of rounds of user testing throughout, wireframes to actual designs to mock-ups. We got feedback throughout the whole process, so it was pretty easy to get what the users wanted and what we were designing and not have to go back and change too much.
Okay. Other questions? So note that in both these cases, we have essentially, as Aaron pointed out, content as a service, right? So Alfresco is the backend repository that has a lot of objects, the metadata, et cetera, and the actual web app is not really Alfresco managed directly, but the assets are being aggregated and pulled from Alfresco. And that is a perfectly viable model for deploying and developing web apps and websites that could use something like Alfresco in terms of managing the lifecycle of the underlying content, but then the presentation is handled by something else. There are partner products such as Crafter and others that can help you build your web solution, your web experience, and use Alfresco as the underlying repository. So I definitely recommend that you guys talk to those guys. So let's wrap up. If you do have additional questions, I'm sure the panel will be happy to answer those questions on a one-on-one basis. Thank you very much for coming.